Hi everyone, number one Marmaduke fan here. Welcome to Manga Monday. You know what? I think I have a few too many subscribers. I think we got to get rid of a few subscribers with a good old-fashioned hot take. So the title of this video is Why Pokemon Adventures Volume 7 is Better Than Alan Moore's Watchmen. This is the Alan Moore fanboys. Open up. We hear you speaking bad about Alan Moore senpai. Oh no, they're coming to get me. I gotta hurry. Please don't murder me, Alan Moore fanboys. Okay. So I like Watchmen, but I want to remind you that spoilers for Watchmen. Watchmen ends with the bad guy dropping a gigantic alien on New York City, and then everybody believes it. And then what the Alan Moore fanboys have done is they've documented all of these examples of foreshadowing that are supposed to build up to a giant alien being dropped on New York City. And, it's actually kind of like cool stuff. Like, the bad guys are stealing synthetic materials. The bad guys are experimenting on psychics, and you don't really know what it's all about. And then, boom, the alien gets dropped on New York City, and everybody believes it because the bad guy planned every minute detail. And if you find the wiki for Watchmen, there'll be nerds who've shown you every newspaper clipping that's supposed to set that up. So every time I bring up Alan Moore and Watchmen, I get in trouble because it's a very well-loved comic book. I enjoy it, but it's not Shakespeare, gang, all right? If the greatest comic book of all time ends with a giant alien being dropped on New York City, we're all in trouble. So rather than bashing Watchmen, what I want to do is praise a kind of neat thing about it, which is he had a really crazy idea for how to end it, and he at least put a lot of thought beforehand into that ridiculous ending. So, excuse me. I thought of Watchmen a lot while reading Pokemon Adventures Volume 7 because this is so absurd, and this is a climax volume. So our first 6 volumes, it's all been fun, kid-friendly adventures, cool battles with smart strategy and stuff, and cool super-duper powers. And Volume 7 is a climax in that we've got 4 battles going on all at the same time. All of them involve super special powers being utilized in creative ways, and the end of the world is nigh. And spoiler, it has its own giant alien being dropped on the world kind of moment. I'm going to go ahead and spoil it. The reason you should read the Pokemon Adventures manga is that Pikachu literally surfs in the middle of a volcano. Let me see if I can find the panel. If you... what even argument is there to make? Yeah, sure, Watchmen's a great comic book, but does Watchmen have Pikachu summoning a psychic surfboard out of nowhere to surf in the waves of an active volcano? That is so awesome. Now, here's even the better thing. This completely makes sense in the logic of the universe established in this story. This is the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. And when I stopped and thought, this is absurd, I thought, wait a minute. Hidenori Kusaka set this up perfectly, point by point. Every single ridiculous thing that happens in this manga has a perfectly logical explanation. So a few volumes ago, I noticed that Pikachu can use this move Substitute and make a little energy Pikachu, all right? So, that's kind of cool. They're doing something creative with the Pokemon moves. So it's Hidenori Kusaka saying, okay, we agree, number one Marmaduke fan, that Pikachu has the ability to create an energy projection of itself. Yes? Yeah, that sounds super cool. Okay, and we agree that Pikachu knows how to surf. Yeah, just like in the games. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so Pikachu can create these energy projections, and Pikachu knows how to surf. And that means that if Pikachu can create an energy projection of itself, that means it can also manipulate its energy projections, right? Oh, yeah, that makes sense. So that means that Pikachu can make an energy projection surfboard that can let him ride on a volcano manga. Oh my gosh, that makes perfect sense. Yes, they set it up. They're kind of... This is kind of like pulling an idea out of your butt at the last minute. But no, they didn't pull it out of the butt. I think that Hidenori knew that he wanted to do this, so he just basically what I call this idea stacking. He has a cool idea about Pokemon, right? Like Pikachu can use these powers in a creative way, but then he doesn't forget these ideas. He must like have a notebook of cool ideas I had about these Pokemon powers, so that later when he writes himself into a corner, like, oh no, how are the good guys ever going to beat the bad guys? He has like these list of powers and how they work, and then sometimes he'll like combine them in creative ways to get like a third power out of them. He is paying attention to what he's doing in his own world building, so that when he does ridiculous stuff like that, it totally works. So I'm just gonna flip through this. Let's see. All of these fights are going on at once. So neat thing number one is Mewtwo comes back, and Mewtwo is a very powerful Pokemon in the game. So how are you gonna do this? How are you going to like not have? How are you gonna have Mewtwo feel like the most powerful Pokemon in the world, but still have a fight with a lot of stakes to it? So number one is that Blaine is using it and not one of like the kid trainers. That's kind of neat because we have one of the older characters basically being an old, experienced badass as the young, as basically just trying to create an opportunity for the young people to have a chance to save the day. There's also kind of like this neat explanation that Mewtwo is so intelligent that he's not going to listen to anybody. The only reason he's listening to Blaine is they kind of have a sort of psychic connection where they perceive each other as sort of a type of blood brother. But Blaine's basically dying. So the longer he's in contact with Mewtwo, the more the link between them flares up and the closer Blaine comes to collapsing. So Mewtwo's basically got like 3 minutes to kick as much ass as possible. And he does really well in the fight. There's lots of the great stuff like Mewtwo using his great offensive and defensive attacks and close quarters attacks. And Lance looks cool basically just by surviving a fight with an enemy this powerful. And it gets to the point where Mewtwo has basically weakened the opponents a little bit, but Blaine is out of time, so Mewtwo has to go back into his Pokeball of its own free will, and it's so strong-willed that Yellow can't use it. That makes sense, yeah. Like in the games, if you're a kid, you can't use like level 100 Pokemon, so it makes perfect sense that Mewtwo just isn't going to listen to a kid like Yellow because Mewtwo kind of sees itself as a lone actor, or Mewtwo will only work with like an experienced fighter. What's great about this is it's working at multiple levels. Mewtwo feels cool because he's fighting all of these opponents all by himself. Lance feels cool because he's fighting an overpowered opponent and creatively surviving the situation. But it leaves off with Mewtwo runs out of time and isn't able to take out Lance. So Yellow, who we just learned was secretly a girl the whole time and is kind of like a little kid, like doesn't even like to evolve her Pokemon because they're cute little babies and she sees them as her friends. She doesn't see them as fighting tools. Now the weakest person in the world has to fight the strongest badass in the world. And everything that made Yellow like a Mary Sue, Yellow isn't a Mary Sue, but it has the kind of traits that people would ascribe to a Mary Sue, but also has flaws. Therefore, she doesn't fit the Mary Sue failed character type. One of her special abilities is she has this ability to heal Pokemon, and she's just kind of like a nice girl, and she's kind of a chosen one too. And then all of that, your expectations of what a chosen one or a special superpowered girl are supposed to be, get not subverted, but it's not as easy as just magically being the chosen one. So Lance has this same kind of chosen one ability, the ability to heal his own Pokemon, the ability to intuitively understand his Pokemon's thoughts and feelings, empath ability. So one of the things that made Yellow a chosen one, Lance has that, so Yellow isn't special, you see? Yellow isn't just magically gifted with all these powers nobody else has. Thing number two is that where was I going with that? Okay, Yellow has a superpower. Lance has this superpower. Yellow has this weakness of not really wanting to fight with Pokemon. Lance feels empathy for Pokemon. He wants to kill all human life on Earth to make a world for Pokemon. Lance is very, very good at fighting with Pokemon, and he sets up this neat thing, which is that when you release an attack, you can't cancel the attack. You can't reabsorb the energy. The only way you can beat that attack is with a stronger attack. So this is just like this classic thing where in a battle manga, one guy's got an attack, but the bad guy has a super duper attack. So the only way for the good guy to beat the bad guy is to somehow get the perfect super duper duper attack. And Yellow has never cared about super duper duper attacks. Yellow's always cared about empathy. Flashing forward, an arm gets cut off. Just like, oh, da 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 da. And then her arm is off. What? Oh my gosh. What? That I gasped when I saw this. But it's okay. It's okay, kids. That's a fake arm. It's just a ditto the whole time, because Green, every one of these characters has a unique style to their fighting, and everyone gets their opportunity to shine. So Green is a trickster femme fatale. So for her, it's all about deceiving your opponent at the last moment. She's been handcuffed to Sabrina this whole time. Sabrina was a villain, and now Sabrina gets a heroic moment to not cut off Green's arm and leave her so she can save herself. Sabrina makes does the brave thing and pulls Green up, and then, surprise, surprise, Green was prepared with a little trick the whole time. The arm was a decoy. That gives them their last little push they need to overcome Lorela. Blue is a strategic thinker. So he's fighting this Pokemon with a super duper power. It can inhabit your shadows, and he has to think, okay, I know it can inhabit the shadows. What causes it to leap out of the shadows and attack me? And he figures out it's sound. So the only way for me to keep it from attacking me is to avoid even making the smallest sound. And he kind of communicates subtly with Koga. So they have this plan to lure the Gengar out of a shadow and then attack it, right? So Blue is an analytical, logical thinker who formulates a plan based on really detailed observations of his opponent. So he feels smart. Yellow is an empathetic character who loves her Pokemon and takes really good care of them, but isn't really a naturally gifted fighter. And Pikachu's psychic surfboard on the lava it's I love that so much. That is the most ridiculous thing I think I've seen in a long time, and I'm loving it. What I was saying is that Yellow is empathetic, and so the Pokemon's love for them has to kind of like come out. And Yellow has a team entirely of basically what would be probably like some of the weakest Pokemon in the game, which makes her feel laughably unprepared for this fight. So, Twistaroo, the chosen one, is supposed to come from Viridian Forest. Yellow's getting her butt kicked. Giovanni is the gym leader of Viridian Forest, and the bad guy of previous volumes. He can be a chosen one too. So the chosen one prophecy thing isn't just playing out exactly the way you think it would. There's a twist to it. And Giovanni was set up. Like, Red earned Giovanni's respect. He kind of has his own ulterior motive of not wanting the Elite Four to compete with Team Rocket. He respects Red and helped Red get out a little bit earlier, so we knew he was alive, and he comes right at the most dramatic moment to fight with Lance. And there's another cool thing where there are all of these cool characters in the video game, but they're basically just like little pixels on a screen. You imagine this big thing in your head when you're playing it, and they have to bring that to life. So Giovanni, he's not the final boss of the game, but you fight him a few times throughout the game, and he feels like a pretty significant character. You feel good, and you feel accomplished when you beat Giovanni. So Lance is probably objectively like a tougher opponent than Giovanni, but he's got to do like a respectable job. And again, he's a highly prepared, highly trained guy, so there's another inventive fight scene where Giovanni uses a collection of Pokemon to get through some of Lance's powerful shields that are hard to pierce. He uses a Beedrill, which has a fine point, so it makes sense that you can cut through something a very tough barrier with a fine point. But then Giovanni basically just nopes out when he sees how tough Lance is. He's not here because he's just so kind-hearted. He's basically here because he sees Lance as a competitor to his power. Again, here's another absolutely insane dropping an alien on the world thing, but everything was set up. So Lance reveals that the entire island is a power booster, and if they collect all the gym badges, then they can harness this ultimate power to wipe out all life on Earth and control all Pokemon on Earth. And you think, whoa, that's insane. But they set everything up. So they set up this idea. there's a logical progression to this. So like point one is, okay, we agree that the badges can be used to control Pokemon, right? And to increase your energy. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, and we agree that Team Rocket experiments with this energy as a way of creating Pokemon with special abilities and being able to dominate other people's Pokemon, right? Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so what if they took all the badges and they made a super duper version of that earlier tool and turned the entire island into one? Then it stands to reason that they could control every Pokemon on Earth, right? Oh yeah, I guess that makes sense. You absolutely set this up. Every single step for this plan to work has been previously established. Hopping ahead, so Yellow's theme is that Yellow is kind of a child. Yellow has a very friendly relationship with her Pokemon. It's even like a kitty thing that you don't want your Pokemon to evolve because they look cuter that way. And so at the dramatic revelation, at the dramatic moment where Yellow's got to do what Yellow's got to do to defeat evil and save the day, all of her Pokemon evolve at the same time, and she's flying through the air with her Butterfree. So it totally works. Yellow's awakening moment where she realizes that she has to grow up. She has to let her Pokemon grow up and stop holding them back to save the one she loves. Allows her to like manifest this ultimate insane attack to go up against Lance. There's also like this classic thing where Lance is the archetypal environmentalist terrorist villain who resents how human beings are, destroying the habitats of Pokemon. So he wants to destroy all human beings to give the Earth to Pokemon. Yellow loves Pokemon and is grieved over when Pokemon are hurt by human life. But Yellow doesn't think that justifies killing all human life on Earth. So it's this great classic thing. Like Thanos fits into this archetype. Ra's al Ghul and Poison Ivy fit into this archetype. The person who thinks that because he has a good reason for it, that entitles him to kill whoever he thinks he should, versus the person who understands, that tragedy, but is empathetic towards all life and human life, and understands the importance of human life. Is there anything else I was going to say about that? Oh yeah, so the final conclusion of this is that the power that Lance was going to use to manipulate all life on Earth, basically Yellow is able to focus her power of healing into that, and instead healing power goes all over the Earth. And again, they set all this stuff up. It's insane, but it's insane when I describe it, but if you actually read all of the previous volumes, you say, oh, wait a second, this totally makes sense. There was this whole thing previously where Lance said you cannot stop an attack from going out. You can only overcome that with a stronger attack. So you think, okay, that makes sense. If you blast energy at Yellow, Yellow can't... the only way for Yellow to stop that is to overcome it with bigger energy. Lance is sending out evil energy all over the Earth to manipulate all Pokemon on Earth. So Yellow has to get a bigger attack. So everybody gives their energy to Yellow in one concentrated blast, and Yellow literally does it. Yellow, who has been incapable of fighting up to this point, overcomes a powerful opponent with a bigger blast and heals all life on Earth. And then it kind of wraps up pretty quickly. One of the subplots is that because Yellow is so compassionate to Pokemon, Yellow has been hesitant to give Pikachu back to Red because Yellow's kind of fallen in... Yellow loves Pikachu as a friend now. And so Yellow has this dream where, well, what if we could be together forever? And they kind of ended a little ambiguously where, Red says, Pikachu seems to really have bonded with you. Maybe we should all live together. And Yellow seems to have a crush on Red. They don't do the romance thing at all. It's just almost like a little childish crush kind of thing. Oh, another brilliant thing. Why is Yellow so concerned about saving Red? That was just something that seemed odd to me. And then after they revealed that Yellow was a girl, I remembered, oh, wait a second. There was that little girl that Red saved in that one chapter. The little girl that Red saved in that one chapter was Yellow the entire time, and and it completely blew my mind. The hiding in plain sight the entire time was an explanation for why Yellow was so motivated to save Red. Red was the one who introduced her to Pokemon, so of course... Oops, out of storage. 19 minutes, that's enough. The TLDR is that Pokemon Adventures is a perfect kids comic. It's completely absurd, and yet all of the absurd stuff is very well plotted with the creative, like over the top ideas being built into the structure of the plot later, so that the more insane it gets, the more it all actually holds together. A true climax with an over-the-top exciting final battle to capstone this great series. The next one I haven't read. It's the manga adaptation of Heart of Gold and Silver, so I will pick that up because it's actually the same creative team on it. So the next volumes will be completely fresh to me. But one of the all-time great children's stories, I think, and a great addition to any manga fans collection. Definitely any, like, if you're a Pokemon fan, you need to read Pokemon Adventures Yesterday. But so creative. Number one Marmaduke fan. I love you guys. Catch you later.